Hey everyone, Aqua here, and I just wanted to put a small first impressions video of Phantasy Star Online 2, New Genesis. But before I get into that, I need y'all to do me a huge favor. The way YouTube works at the moment is that I cannot monetize any of these videos until we hit 1K subscribers. As you can see, we're quite a bit away from that. So if you could please hit that big red button that says subscribe. It's free, it won't cost you anything, and it shows your support. I'd be eternally grateful, and so would my co-host. It would allow us to know that people want this type of content, and it would allow me to put more money into this channel. So thank you in advance. Now let's get back to why we're here. Now what is Phantasy Star Online 2, you ask? Well, Phantasy Star is a video game series created by Sega, with various single player and a few multiplayer ones, like Phantasy Star Online and Phantasy Star Online 2. New Genesis is a new expansion type to base Phantasy Star Online 2. It has a new engine, a new story set like 1,000 years after Phantasy Star Online 2, upgraded gameplay, open world map, and much more. From here on, I will refer to New Genesis as such, and base PSO2 as base. Sega released a closed beta test for New Genesis over the weekend of the 14th, and I had the pleasure of being able to play it. Though not for as much as I would have liked to, considering I was extremely busy with a lot of other obligations. But I did get to sit down with a friend and play for a few hours and get some footage to show you. First of all, I would like to compliment Sega for what they have done with this game. It feels immeasurably better than base, and looks to be very new player friendly, which I feel like base wasn't as much. I won't say that base was not new player friendly, but when loading into base you easily get overwhelmed by the sheer amount of client orders that are just on your screen. In New Genesis, they force you to go through a short tutorial quest line, not unlike Final Fantasy XIV, if any of you played that. After a few quests, they introduce you to client orders. You do like 2 of them and report back to your main quest guy, and then the main hub opens up, where you'll see a variety of NPCs with the client quest icon. But unlike base, they don't have like 10 to 20 of them each. They have like 1 or 2, and more unlock as you complete them. Gameplay wise, it feels very familiar to base, but it personalizes each class differently. It makes it feel like more of a character action game, as co-host Dalit would say. In the beta, I only tried out Hunter and Gunner and watched a little bit of Force play. In base, I only played Ranger, Hunter, Bouncer, and Gunner. And out of the 2 that I can personally compare to, they feel the same but different. And it's very hard to explain without actually playing it yourself. But imagine a more polished Devil May Cry 1, and you get the basis of how New Genesis feels. It definitely feels like the better of the 2. The graphics in New Genesis have been overhauled along with the engine of the game. Character models, while still looking a bit plasticky, have better textures and animations. The character creator itself has added functions, while some options have been separated depending on what race or class you pick. The world is fully open and only separated by visible barriers, and technically act as markers for different zones in the game. There's no loading screens outside of entering cocoons, which act as like a virtual style type dungeon. And this is probably where my first con comes into play. The game is beautiful. It's fully open, and pretty much anywhere you look you can go to. This comes with some performance issues though. When you're not around a bunch of people, or there's not a bunch of enemies around, the game runs very smooth. But when you're around a decent amount of other players, or when there's a bunch of enemies around, the frames can drop significantly. Or when going through the zone barriers, it attempts to real-time load everything at the same time. The performance of the game does tank. So I can't give a full praise, because while the game does look great, I'm only running on medium settings, and it's not like my computer is a potato. So I'm hoping that in the release version, it's better optimized. I'd have to say my favorite part about this beta was testing out the traversal of the world that they've added to this game. In base, you were able to dash, and when you hit higher levels and you were able to access more advanced classes, your movement was greatly changed. But in New Genesis, you start off being able to sprint at very high speeds very easily, and you have a double jump, which while you're sprinting makes you jump super high. And if you hold onto that jump button while you were in the air, you're able to glide. it makes getting around this massive world very easy, and it's just overall the most enjoyable aspect of this game. While running around, a friend and I ran into a level 10 boss mob. Now, I'm not 100% sure of the diversity of enemies in this game. All I know is that there's normal level enemies, there are some that are a bit stronger with enhancements, there are bosses with enhancements, and emergency quest bosses. Now, this enemy wasn't an emergency quest boss, but it was very strong. You seem to think it was maybe a roaming world boss. Not one that's crazy strong, but definitely requires you to have a few more people there, or else it's going to take a very long time to kill it. So my friend and I decided to take it on by ourselves. I died over and over and over again, but we did manage to get its primary shield and enhancer down before more people on the block showed up and helped us kill it. It was super fun, and that's the type of experience I love to run into when playing an MMO. I'd also like to mention that when running around, there's a lot of stuff to interact with, like mining nodes that allow you to get materials used to upgrade your weapons and equipment. The new healing item system that is seen on the ground, they're either yellow or green. They look like flowers. The yellows, they give you items to raise people, and the green is a healing item. This system is way better than the previous just buy items and have them in the base game. Speaking of emergency quests in PSO2 are pretty much scheduled actions that the whole player base can take a part in. In base, they were a variety of bosses, or killing a bunch of enemies, or defending a town or a base, or even piloting a mecha to take on your enemies in space. Now, one did happen before the server shut down. I was not able to participate in it, and I didn't get any footage of it, but they required you to be at 950 battle power, and from which I gathered isn't too hard to actually do. You just had to have been playing the beta a bit longer than I had, but I wasn't able to because I wasn't able to play this as much as I wanted. But my friend was able to take part in it, and I did see what it was like, and it definitely blew all other emergency quests I had done in base out of the water. It goes back to, as I said, it feels like a character action game, and just watching him fight the emergency quest boss just solidified that thought. Now, I'm no base PSO2 expert, and I can link a few in the description if you have any super informative questions. But it seems like the class system, the leveling and augmenting your weapon system, and the new multi-weapon system that allows you to form together two different weapons seems very intuitive and easy to understand. Overall, I enjoyed my time with the closed beta and was very thankful that the process for getting into it was very easy. Let's go over some pros and cons I had when playing this game. Pros. The new engine upgrade made the graphics look amazing. The more intuitive gameplay, new player friendly, an immersive world, and the traversal system is just great. The only con I can think of is that the PC version definitely needed some more optimization. So yeah, it's a game I'm looking forward to playing this coming June. There's no specific release date for it yet, but I suspect it's probably going to be in the second half. If they can get past these optimization issues, I can see New Genesis taking over a large portion of the MMO market for a while. Anyway, I hope this video has been helpful in you figuring out if you want to try New Genesis or maybe even the base game, which I also recommend. If you've gotten this far, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I'll do my best and try to get out some more New Genesis videos once the game releases. This is Aqua signing off. Have a good day.